Welcome to this deep dive. We'll be looking at some material on purpose-driven leadership.
Yeah, that's right.
You sent over some fascinating work by Dr. Chris Dalton.
Uh-huh.
He's an associate professor of management learning
Okay.
at Henley Business School.
Got it.
We'll be looking at his Management Today columns,
Right.
as well as the Henley Development Framework,
Yep.
and his article, The Path to Purpose.
Sounds good.
They all offer some really interesting perspectives I think you'll find valuable.
Dr. Dalton really has a way of making these kind of abstract leadership ideas
Yeah.
seem very practical and approachable.
Exactly. One of the first things that stood out for me was this three-question framework he uses. He says that good management and leadership
Right.
comes down to answering three key questions.
Okay.
The first one sounds really simple at first. What should we do next?
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems almost too basic.
Yeah.
But when you really dig into it,
Yeah.
that question drives every decision,
Mhm.
every strategy, every action an organization takes.
For sure. And Dr. Dalton argues that you can't really answer that question
Right.
without understanding the context first.
Oh, I see.
So his second question is, what is going on? And this is where he introduces this idea of naked observation.
Naked observation.
Yeah. Are you familiar with that?
I've come across it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of those deceptively simple ideas that's hard to actually put into practice.
Right.
It's about letting go of our assumptions
No.
and biases.
Yeah.
And just seeing the situation with fresh eyes.
Imagine you're trying to solve a problem at work,
Yeah.
but you're only looking at it
Mm-hmm.
through the lens of your past experiences.
Right.
You might miss some really important details
Yeah.
or even potential solutions.
That's a great point. It's like we have to reset our perceptions and see things as they truly are.
Right.
Which brings us to the third question in Dr. Dalton's framework. Who am I?
Now that's where things get really interesting,
Yeah.
particularly when we're talking about purpose-driven leadership.
Yeah.
Dr. Dalton says that we can't lead effectively if we don't have a solid understanding of ourselves. Our motivations, our strengths, our weaknesses.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we risk being disconnected from the impact of what we do.
Right.
It's like leading on autopilot
Yeah.
without any real sense of direction.
Makes me think of those leaders who seem to be just going through the motions,
Right.
checking boxes, but lacking that genuine spark
Yeah.
or passion.
Yeah,
It really all comes back to self-awareness, doesn't it?
It does.
Understanding our values, our beliefs,
Right.
and motivations so we can lead authentically
Absolutely.
and with intention.
And this leads perfectly into Dr. Dalton's article you shared,
Yeah.
The Path to Purpose.
Yes.
He suggests that by wrestling with these three fundamental questions,
Right.
what to do next, what's going on, and who am I,
Yeah.
we can unlock a deeper understanding of our own purpose and build a more purpose-driven organization.
I love that. And something that really grabbed my attention in the article was what he said about baked-in purpose. You know, where an organization's purpose is fixed and predefined, like a set of rules
I see.
that can't be changed.
Right.
He compares it to navigating a maze where you're just following a predetermined path.
Okay.
And then when you get to the center, what then?
I think his point is that having that kind of baked-in purpose can stifle things
Right.
for individuals and for the whole organization.
Yeah.
Like you're going through the motions without any real ownership or chance to really innovate and grow.
Right.
Think about how demotivating it would be
Yeah.
to feel like you're just a cog in a machine,
Yeah.
just following a script someone else wrote.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Would you agree? I think that's where a lot of people get stuck feeling like their work doesn't have meaning or significance.
Right.
Like they're just going through the motions waiting for the next instruction instead of feeling empowered to create and contribute something meaningful.
Exactly. And Dr. Dalton offers a really compelling alternative to this view of purpose as being static.
Yeah.
He says that true purpose emerges in the present moment,
Okay.
not an endpoint, but a journey, a constant evolution.
So instead of searching for our purpose, we should focus on cultivating it,
Yeah,
letting it unfold organically through our experiences and interactions.
that's a great way to put it. And to help us cultivate purpose, Dr. Dalton suggests this hierarchy of thinking.
I was so fascinated by this concept. It starts with sense-making.
Okay.
If I'm understanding correctly, it's about converting the data we observe into usable knowledge.
I see.
Say you see trends in your industry.
Okay.
Those are just data points until you analyze them and extract meaningful insights. And Dr. Dalton really emphasizes questioning our assumptions. We can't just accept information as it appears to us.
Right.
We have to dig deeper, ask why, and challenge our own biases.
Don't believe everything you think.
So true. And once we've made sense of the data, we go up to meaning making. This is where we start to connect those insights to our own values and experiences.
Okay.
We ask ourselves, why does this matter to me?
Yeah.
How does this align with my own beliefs and aspirations?
Right. Making those observations personal.
Yeah.
Finding the meaning and relevance.
Yeah.
For ourselves.
Right.
I think that's crucial for developing a sense of purpose in our work.
Absolutely. It's that aha moment when you realize your work isn't just a series of tasks, but a way to contribute to something bigger than yourself, something aligned with your values and passions.
Exactly. And that brings us to the top of Dr. Dalton's hierarchy. Purpose.
Okay.
He describes it as the ultimate expression of ownership, where we're not just understanding or finding meaning, but creating and contributing.
Right.
Based on our evolving understanding of ourselves and the world.
So purpose isn't something we discover, but something we invent.
Exactly.
Something that emerges from our continuous interaction with the world and our ongoing reflection on those experiences.
That's a great way to put it. Dr. Dalton uses this really vivid metaphor to illustrate this.
Go on.
The sailing ship.
Okay.
He talks about how a skilled sailor doesn't just follow a fixed route. They're constantly adjusting to the changing winds and currents.
Right.
Choosing relationships that will help them navigate the journey. And ultimately charting a course toward a destination that might even shift and evolve along the way.
I love that metaphor. It really captures how dynamic and evolving purpose is.
Right.
It's not about sticking to a rigid plan, but about being adaptable and resourceful.
Right.
Responsive to the ever-changing landscape.
And that adaptability, that willingness to adjust, is essential for cultivating purpose individually and in organizations. It's about being open to new possibilities, seeing challenges as opportunities for growth, and constantly refining our understanding of what truly matters.
This is giving me so much to think about in terms of how I approach my work and leadership. What about you?
What really resonates with me is how interconnected all these concepts are. Self-awareness, sense-making, meaning-making, and purpose, they all build on each other. It reminds me that cultivating purpose is a holistic endeavor. Engaging our minds, our hearts, and our actions in a continuous process of exploration and growth.
That's a great insight. Makes me think of another brilliant concept Dr. Dalton brings up in one of his Management Today columns. Yes and thinking.
Okay.
He talks about how this small shift in language can really change how we communicate and collaborate, and ultimately build a more purpose-driven culture.
That's a great point. Ties in perfectly with what we've talked about so far.
Right.
Yeah. Would you like to dive into that concept now?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay.
I have a feeling this could be a real game changer for our listeners.
Right.
Especially those who want some practical tools to create a more collaborative and innovative environment at work.
Great. So you said yes and thinking could be a real game changer. What about it do you think can really make a difference in the workplace?
It's that change from yes but to yes and.
Okay.
That I find so interesting. Think about how often we just automatically say yes but in conversations. It's almost like we're shutting down ideas before they have a chance to develop.
Like putting up a wall.
Exactly. Instead of exploring an idea, we immediately jump to why it won't work. But with yes and, we're saying, okay, we hear the idea and let's build on it. It's about being curious and collaborative. Instead of judgmental or dismissive.
I see.
Dr. Dalton mentions that this idea comes from improv theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Improv actors use yes and to create scenes in the moment.
Right.
They build on each other's ideas, which often leads to unexpected and funny outcomes.
I could see how that would be useful at work.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine brainstorming sessions where everyone feels like they can share even their craziest ideas.
Right.
Knowing they'll be met with yes and instead of that will never work.
It creates psychological safety.
Totally. Where people feel comfortable taking risks.
Yeah.
Sharing their ideas without fear of judgment.
Right.
And ultimately, you end up with a more innovative and creative environment.
Absolutely.
Dr. Dalton highlights 3 key benefits of yes and thinking that are relevant to what we've been talking about with purpose-driven leadership. First, it builds a much stronger sense of teamwork and collaboration. When we're building on each other's ideas. It creates synergy.
I imagine that would really energize a team. Especially when they're working on something creative.
Totally. Instead of getting bogged down in disagreements or arguments, there's a shared feeling of everyone working towards a common goal. The second benefit is that it reduces wishful thinking. Instead of getting stuck in what-if scenarios, we're focused on what's possible now.
Makes sense.
It's about taking action instead of getting lost in hypotheticals. And the third benefit is that yes and can create a more open and inclusive organization. One that embraces experimentation and different perspectives.
It's about focusing on what's possible. Instead of what's not.
I think that's a great message for any leader who wants to build a truly purpose-driven organization.
For sure.
Now let's talk about the Henley Development Framework. You mentioned it earlier. You described it as a comprehensive approach to personal development for managers and leaders.
It offers a really holistic view of leadership development. It's organized into 3 categories: foundations, readiness, and integration. But the most interesting part, I think, is the 9 aspects within these categories. They cover all these crucial skills and qualities for effective leadership.
Tell me more about these 9 aspects. Are there any that particularly stand out to you?
Well, we already talked about self-awareness.
Right.
And that's a fundamental part of the Henley Development Framework.
Okay.
Dr. Dalton has a great quote in there.
Yeah.
He says, "Many hunt for self-awareness rather like they were using a flashlight to look for the dark. Only when the flashlight learns to switch itself off can it discover the darkness."
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is.
It suggests that self-awareness isn't about searching for something outside ourselves,
Right.
but turning inward and examining our own thoughts, feelings, and motivations. And that inner work is so important for cultivating purpose. If we don't understand ourselves, our values, our strengths and weaknesses, we can't lead authentically.
Right.
Or intentionally.
And without that self-awareness, we risk falling into that baked-in purpose trap.
Right.
Just going through the motions without any connection to what we're doing.
Right.
Or why it matters.
The Henley Development Framework also emphasizes self-accountability. As a key aspect of leadership development.
Right. It's about taking responsibility for what we do and the decisions we make. Owning up to our mistakes and learning from them. And moving forward with a sense of responsibility.
I love how that connects to the idea of purpose-driven leadership. When we're self-aware and accountable, we're more likely to act in line with our values. And make choices that contribute to something bigger.
And that sense of alignment really fuels purpose.
Absolutely.
It's about connecting what we do to something beyond ourselves. Something that aligns with our deepest beliefs and aspirations.
The Henley Development Framework also highlights something that's often overlooked in leadership development.
Oh, really?
Sustainable health and well-being.
That's so important.
Right. We can't expect leaders to be effective, let alone purpose-driven, if they're burnt out or stressed.
Of course.
Or if they're not taking care of themselves.
Like trying to run a marathon without any training.
It's about realizing that our well-being is essential to everything we do. We need to actively cultivate it, not just for ourselves, but for those we lead.
That's a great point.
And that actually leads into another aspect of the framework, emotional resilience. It's about being able to navigate challenges and setbacks without losing sight of our goals and values.
Dr. Dalton even talks about compassion as a key part of emotional resilience. It's about being kind to ourselves. Just like we would be to others.
We often set really high standards for ourselves, and when we inevitably make mistakes, we can be hard on ourselves. But having compassion for ourselves is essential for building that resilience.
And without that resilience, it's much harder to stay connected to our purpose.
Exactly.
Especially when things get tough.
Now, this brings us to another interesting aspect. Being resourced. It's about making sure we have the tools and knowledge we need to do well in our roles.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. Leaders need to be supported so they can be their best selves and lead effectively.
It's like sending someone on a trip without a map or supplies.
Exactly.
Setting them up for failure.
And being resourced is about more than just material things.
Okay.
It's also about creating a supportive and safe environment where people feel comfortable asking for help, taking risks, and learning from mistakes.
It's about building that sense of community and shared responsibility.
Right. It takes a village.
It does.
And when people feel supported and resourced, they're more likely to embrace challenges, do their best work, and stay connected to the bigger purpose of the organization. Which brings us to the next aspect, lifelong learning and creativity.
It's about realizing that the world's always changing.
Right.
And we need to be adaptable and open to new ideas if we want to thrive.
So we should be encouraging people to keep learning. Stay curious. And be open to new ways of thinking and doing.
Absolutely.
And that takes a certain humility and willingness to step outside our comfort zones. It's about accepting that we're always on a journey of growth and discovery.
I love that perspective.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off having to know everything.
Yeah.
And instead encourages continuous learning.
And improvement.
Right.
Which brings us to critical and strategic thinking. In today's complex world, leaders have to be able to analyze information, anticipate challenges, and make informed decisions that align with their vision and values.
It's not just about reacting to what's happening right now. It's about taking a step back, seeing the bigger picture, and making decisions that will have a lasting impact.
And strategic thinking isn't just about the big decision. It's about the small, everyday choices we make, how we communicate with our teams, how we allocate resources, how we respond to conflicts. All those decisions contribute to the culture of the organization.
It's like weaving a tapestry. Each decision, each interaction adds to the final picture.
It highlights how interconnected everything we do as leaders is. Now let's talk about another key aspect of the Henley development framework, open communication. We discussed how yes and thinking can foster an inclusive and collaborative environment. But open communication goes beyond just accepting ideas. It's about transparency, where information flows freely and people feel comfortable sharing their perspectives even if they disagree.
Creating a space where people feel safe to speak their mind.
Knowing
they'll be heard and respected. Even if their views are different.
And that kind of psychological safety is so important for building trust and encouraging innovation. When people feel valued and respected, they're more likely to share their best ideas. And engage in constructive dialogue even when there are disagreements.
Thinking back to Dr. Dalton's idea of naked observation and letting go of assumptions, open communication requires that same willingness to see things as they are, to hear different perspectives, and to have honest and respectful conversations.
And it requires vulnerability from leaders, admitting when we don't know everything, being open to feedback, and willing to change course when we need to.
It's about leading authentically and humbly. Instead of pretending we have all the answers. Or that we're always in control.
And that authenticity can be so powerful. It lets leaders connect with their teams on a deeper level, build stronger relationships, and create an environment where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued.
Which ultimately leads to better results. It's amazing how all these ideas connect.
I know.
It's like a symphony of leadership. With every element contributing to the overall harmony and impact.
It's like we've been putting together this amazing leadership toolkit throughout our deep dive. And now the question is, how do we use these tools to build a stronger sense of purpose, both for ourselves and the people we lead?
That's the key question, isn't it? I think we have to remember that purpose isn't something we find once and that's it. Or some finish line we cross. It's a journey. Exploration, reflection, and action.
It's like that sailing ship metaphor again.
We're always adjusting course to the changing winds and currents, heading toward a destination. That might even change along the way.
What I find really interesting is how Dr. Dalton says purpose is about the here and now. It's not some far-off goal, but about finding meaning and alignment in what we're doing right now.
So it's not just about what we do, but also how we do it and why it matters to us.
Exactly.
I think that's a really important message for leaders.
Yeah.
It's about creating an environment where people feel connected to something bigger than themselves, where they can see they're making a difference and feel proud of the work they do.
That sounds like a recipe for a really engaged team.
It does. How do we actually build that sense of purpose in a practical way? What does Dr. Dalton suggest?
I think the Henley development framework has some good insights.
Okay.
Let's take open communication, for example.
When leaders create a space where people feel safe to share their ideas, perspectives, even their doubts, it opens up a more honest conversation about purpose.
It's like we're inviting everyone to join the conversation. What resonates with you? What challenges you? What inspires you?
And by really listening to what people are saying, leaders can figure out the values and goals. That can shape the organization's overall purpose.
And then there's self-accountability. When people take ownership of their actions and decisions, it empowers them to act in line with their values, which naturally strengthens their sense of purpose.
It's about moving beyond just doing what you're told. And tapping into that internal drive. That comes from feeling like you're part of something meaningful.
And that ties in perfectly with lifelong learning and creativity. When we're always growing and learning and exploring new things, we're more open to finding and pursuing our purpose.
It's about being curious. And being willing to embrace the unknown. Recognizing that purpose isn't fixed, but evolves as we grow.
So to build that sense of purpose, we're encouraging people to be lifelong learners, stay curious, challenge the way things are, and be open to new ways of thinking and doing.
Absolutely.
And when individuals feel empowered to learn and grow, it creates this ripple effect throughout the organization, building a culture of innovation and purpose-driven action.
I think it all comes back to Dr. Dalton's hierarchy of thinking. It starts with sense-making, observing and trying to understand the world around us.
And we move to meaning-making, asking ourselves why it matters, what it means to us personally and collectively. And then we reach that level of purpose, expressing those values and beliefs through action.
It's a really great framework for understanding how purpose emerges. Both individually and as a group. And it shows us that it's an ongoing process.
Not a one-time event.
Exactly.
Thinking about how to put this into practice. One of the most powerful things we can do as leaders is just create space for these conversations about purpose.
I completely agree.
It's about shifting our focus from just achieving goals to thinking about the why behind those goals. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve? What kind of impact do we want to have?
Those are the big questions.
They are. But I think they're essential for any leader who wants to build a truly purpose-driven organization.
And for anyone who wants to live a more meaningful life.
And we need to keep asking ourselves these questions as we continue to learn and grow.
This has been a really insightful deep dive.
It has. Thank you for joining me to explore purpose-driven leadership. I hope this has given you some new perspectives and tools to cultivate a deeper sense of purpose in your own work and life.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
It has been.
I hope our listeners feel inspired to embark on their own journeys of purpose.
The journey doesn't end here. Keep asking those big questions. Keep challenging assumptions. And keep cultivating a deeper sense of purpose in everything you do.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening.